My old laptop used to be filled to the brim with a ton of free plugins, and a lot of them were not that great. So when I built my new PC, I knew I needed to put the absolute necessities on there. And I'm gonna show you 5 of those today. And make sure you stick around until the last plugin because it's kind of magical. All right, so the first plugin we have here is Fresh Air by Slate Digital. It essentially does what the title says. It adds a ton of air to the top end of your mixes, but without making it sound harsh. I love using this thing on vocals, so let's take a look at how this thing sounds on vocals.
Let me in. Don't put up those walls again. Let me see all the things that make you move and feel alive.
It's almost like taking a blanket off of your speakers. It really just adds a lot of bright, crisp top end without making it sound harsh. And honestly, a little goes a long ways with this plugin, especially on vocals.
Feel alive.
The next plugin on the list is OTT by X4 Records. OTT stands for Over the Top Compression, and this used to be an Ableton only thing until X4 Records made a version of it, and now you can run it in any DAW. Since then, there are tons of other copies out there, but honestly, this is just a great plugin and it is free. So there are a couple things about this that separates it out from other compressors. It is essentially a multi-band compressor, so you have a low end, a mid-range, and a high end. You also have upwards and downwards compression. And of course, this depth knob is like, I treat it like a mix knob, although it's essentially how much compression is actually being done overall. This thing is great on vocals and it's really, really good on synths. So this is what it sounds like on vocals.
Making footprints in our sand, side by side. I'll hold your hand, surround me with your warmth and light, and I'll be fine. Let me in. Don't put up those walls again.
Really adds a ton of just compression and really puts it forward in the mix. Let's take a listen to it in the context of the mix.
Let me see all the things that make you move and feel alive. Feel alive.
It is an absolute must-have. Compression is kind of a tricky thing, and honestly, I like to think of it as Mom in the Car. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, I have a free guide called the Mom in the Car Compression Checklist. Scroll down right now and click the top link in the description, and you can get that for free. That analogy helped me to be able to feel compression more than I was hearing it. This next plugin is called Span, and it is just a frequency analyzer, but honestly, you need to have this tool. I use it most of the time on the mix bus here, and I just throw it on at the end, and I just take a look at how my mix is doing overall, and I want to make sure that everything has the typical slope that I like. And a quick hack with this plugin is if you drag in a mix from one of your favorite producers or favorite bands, you can compare their mix to your mix by just taking a look at the analyzer here and then comparing it to how it sounds with your mix and with the mix that you choose. It's really great at being able to pinpoint frequencies and figure out what the problem areas are, and then you can use an EQ to cut or boost or do whatever you need to do in the mix.
Wish you feel
The next plugin on the list is Saturation Knob by Softtube. This is a really simple plugin. You have one knob here for saturation, and then you have just a switch down here that you can choose neutral, keep low, or keep high, and that's the amount of saturation that you're adding. I really like using Saturation Knob to get pianos and synths to kind of poke through in the mix a little bit without having to EQ them too much. So we have this piano part that sounds like this, and then we're just going to add Softtube onto it. Really just thickens it up and puts it more front in the mix. And you can really drive it home if you want to. And you can especially hear the difference in the keep high, neutral, and keep low when you have the saturation cranked up all the way. So let's take a listen to that in the mix and just hear how that piano starts to poke through when I engage this plugin.
Let it
now this last plugin is called Snare Buzz by Waves Factory. This really is a magical plugin because you can just throw this on a snare track, and if you don't have a snare bottom track, it will add an emulation essentially of the snare wires to really make it sound more natural. Let me make sure this is still free. Yeah, it's still free. It's so good, I still can't believe it's free. So we have the snare drum here, and I wanted to add a little bit of snare wire to the bottom of it. So take a listen. So now let's turn on Snare Buzz. You can adjust here with the mix knob. You can adjust the mic distance. You can also adjust the tightness of the snare wires. So much better. Take a listen to it in the context of the mix.
Me with your warmth and light, and I'll be fine. Let me.
Now let's listen to it in the context of the rest of the drums. Man, that just really is a magical plugin. Now, all of the plugins in the world can't save your mixes, even if you download all of the free and all of the paid ones. Sometimes you have to delete your songs in order to get better. If you want to know what I'm talking about, click this video right here. In that video, I tell you how I got better by deleting my projects. It seems counterintuitive, but trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. Now, as always, go create.